Okay, let's talk about the poetry devices known as sound devices. Now, these should all look pretty familiar because we've been using them in bell ringers throughout the year. So you're not going to see anything you've never seen before, and you're not going to see any definitions I haven't given you before. It's just that now you have to know them for a test as opposed to just knowing them to do them for bell ringers and probably skip them for ones that you actually did know to write definitions to and examples of. All right, so we'll start with alliteration. Alliteration is a repeated beginning consonant sound. Now keep in mind, a repeating beginning consonant sound is more or less the same thing as a repeated beginning consonant, but not exactly. Case in point, the letter C can either make a K sound or an S sound. So you could have two consecutive words both starting with C that aren't alliterated, like colorful ceiling. One starts with a K sound, one starts with an S sound. Or you could have something like cozy kitten. One starts with a C and one starts with a K, but it's alliteration because they both start with a K sound. Okay? Same thing if you've got a WH starting a word like whom, makes an H sound, just like the letter H does. Okay, for the most part, though, you're pretty safe looking for consecutive beginning letters. All right, case in point, from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, which is one of the narrative poems that you have looked at. While I nodded, nearly napping. You have the repeated beginning end sound there in that particular line of the poem. Assonance is a repeated vowel sound. Remember, alliteration, consonant, assonance, starts with an A, is a repeated vowel sound. Okay? I'm going to contrast that assonance starts with an A with something else in just a minute or two. All right. Now, whereas with alliteration, for the most part, you can look at the beginnings of words and look for the same letter, and that kind of helps you spot alliteration with your eyes. With assonance, you're going to have to kind of read the lines out loud in your head and sort of mentally listen for those vowel sounds. This, for the record, got very, very tricky when I was teaching at Thompson High because I had a student who was deaf, and trying to explain, listen to it in your head does not work if you're trying to find these lit devices when you can't hear and never have been able to. All right, so if you take a look at this line from Song of Myself, sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow zones growing. Now, granted, you're probably never going to read a line of poetry like that, but when you're looking for sound devices, it's a good idea to kind of slow down your speed through a line of poetry to double check to see if you can pick up on it, okay? And so here you hear, if I slow it down, you can hear that oh, 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 okay? Now, the reason I mentioned that assonance is a vowel thing and it starts with an A, you're going to be a lot more likely to confuse assonance and consonants, although you probably really shouldn't for fairly obvious reasons, than you are assonance and alliteration because they both end in ants and whatever. All right, but it should be pretty easy to think about the fact that consonance has to do with consonants. First word ends in CE, last word ends in TS, okay? It is also like alliteration, a consonant sound, but you find consonants in different parts of the word, not just at the beginning. Okay, this is a line from the story The Outcast of Poker Flat by Bret Harte. Beneath this tree lies the body of John Oakhurst, who struck a streak of bad luck. You've got that repeated K sound, and that K sound is at the ends of the words, as opposed to at the beginning like you get with alliteration. Okay, then we have slant rhyme, and you're going to see slant rhyme with Emily Dickinson particularly. We are going to look at a couple of Emily Dickinson poems in this unit. Slant rhyme occurs when you have words at the ends of the lines that are used as though they rhyme, and they may look an awful lot like they rhyme, but sound-wise they don't. When we think rhyme, we're thinking, that a word has got to have the exact same consonants and vowels and the whole 9 yards at the end, okay? With slant rhyme, that's not quite the case. Take a look at these two lines. I've known her from an ample nation choose one, O-N-E, then close the vowels of her attention like stone, O-N-E. One and stone do not rhyme, but if you look at them, they look very similar, and they've got that same consonant sound. That's what we call slant rhyme. Now, what you're most used to when we talk about the concept of rhyme is end rhyme, and that just means that ends of the lines rhyme. You have words that have the exact same sound at the end. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. No, though, exact same vowel sound at the end of the line. Whose woods these are, blah, blah, blah. Oh, his house is in the village, though. All right, that's what I mean by end rhyme. Words are at the ends of the lines, and they have the same sounds. They rhyme with each other, as these two lines do from Robert Frost's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. We also have what is called internal rhyme, and that's when you have words within the lines that rhyme. Take a look at this line from The Death of the Ball Turret Gunner by Randall Jarrell. 6 miles from Earth, loosed from the dream of life, I woke to black flack. These two words that rhyme in the middle of the line, and the nightmare fighters. And the last sound device we're going to look at is onomatopoeia, which is kind of fun to say, fun enough that one of my former students once said he was going to name one of his children onomatopoeia. His ex-wife had better sense, so that didn't happen. And it's the formation of a word from a sound associated with what it is named. If you have ever seen any of the old 1960s Batman shows where you have those flashcards going bow and, boom and bap and all that, that's onomatopoeia. The sounds that animals make. The reason we call the sound the cat makes meow is that we've made the word, we formed the word based on the sound meow. And meow is as close as we can get to it. That's why you call it that. All right. For example, from the poem Let Us View with Joy and Mirth by Madeline L'Engle. Let us view with joy and mirth all the clocks upon the earth, holding time with busy talking, ticking, booming, clanking, clocking. These are all sounds, and we've tried to capture those sounds in words. The tick, tick, tick of a clock. The reason we call it tick is because that's the sound it makes. Same thing with boom, and same thing with talk. All right, so these are the sound devices that we are going to be looking at in this unit and that you're going to be looking for in the poems that I'm going to assign you.